Ex-smokers who successfully quit and have been smoke-free for years now. What did it? Dumbest and least relatable reason incoming. My housemate wanted me to smuggle cigarettes, but I didn't want to. So I said I'd very recently quit and didn't want to be tempted to smoke by having thousands of them around. So I had to keep up the lie at that point. I'm probably like a lot of former smokers that tried to quit a number of times before being successful. Then a friend and I were out fishing, and he began talking about quitting smoking. He wanted to bet $50 that he could outlast me. Beer drinking and trash talking commenced, and the bet got up to $500. So I am way too cheap to lose a bet like that, and so I went weeks without the butts. My friend came around, admitted that he was back on the smokes, and paid up the $500. I was tempted to go back, but was feeling so much better without the cigs, kept it going. Ironically, the longer you stayed quit, the easier it was to afford losing the bet. I bought a pack of cigarettes, my last one, and put it on that bowl next to the door where you put your keys. When I was a smoker, I always felt more in need of a smoke. If I didn't have a pack, I sometimes went to buy cigarettes in the middle of the night just to not feel that. I decided to stop 1 minute at a time. Each time I wanted to smoke, I would tell myself in 10 minutes, if I still want to smoke, I will, and then just move on to something else. Do not sit in front of a timer, waiting usually a couple of minutes later. The need is not as urgent anymore. You don't have to think about an eternity smoke-free. You just need to make it 1 minute at a time. Eventually, it had been 3 weeks, and I wasn't about to ruin my efforts, then 3 months, then a year, and knowing it had been 7 years. I have one of those apps that tell you how much your health improved as you stay smoke-free. Another thing is that I kept on hanging out with smokers. I wanted to stay exposed to my environment. So far, so good. I still get cravings, but I don't act on them. But once a smoker, always a smoker. I could relapse if I start smoking again. Drove 10 hours with my father-in-law in the car. He smoked a pipe and inhaled it. At one point, he coughed so hard he puked out the window. Quit the next day. My mother-in-law smoked like a chimney, including in the house, for 30 years after her divorce from my father-in-law. My wife, her daughter, and I had a baby. We brought the baby over one weekend, and all 3 of us got sick from how gross the house was. We told her we could not bring the baby there anymore. She quit that day. Hasn't smoked in 5 years. Lifestyle changes. First, no smoking while driving, and by extension, working. Second, no cigarettes at home. I had to pick up a pack before hitting a bar or another smoking-allowed environment. Then, I quit drinking. The hedonism of chain smoking and taking shots are too intertwined for me. I am 4 years smoke-free. I have a serious mouse phobia. So, when I decided I no longer wanted to smoke, I would force myself to look at videos of rodents. My brain quickly started associating smoking with mice. Went out one Thursday evening with some friends, and friends of friends, back when you could smoke in the pub. Got chatting to a girl, hit it off, and at the end of the night, said our goodbyes and parted with a vague plan to meet up again. Maybe next week. Friday lunchtime, lasagna and a pint with some of the group from the night before, when having a couple of pints at lunchtime was acceptable. I lit up a cigarette after eating, and the friend who had introduced me to the girl the previous night mentioned, "Oh, you know that girl you were talking to last night? She's not a big fan of smoking." I thought for a brief moment, stubbed out my Camel, crumpled up the packet that was left, threw my lighter, and have not been tempted to light up since. That was 1990, and this May, we will have been married for 32 years. I read Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. I promise I'm not being paid for this. The comedian Paul F. Tompkins smoked for years but quit after reading this book and would recommend it to anybody who wanted to try. I'm a big fan of his, so I decided it couldn't hurt. As soon as I started the book, I realized what it was doing. I figured I was way too smart for it and that it would never work, even though I understood the points it was making and the psychology it was using. I continued to smoke as I was reading it, as the book instructs you to do, and was absolutely sure the cute little tricks it was using would never work and that I had just wasted $10. I finished the book, threw away the unsmoked half of the pack I was on, and haven't had so much as a craving since. I don't even vape. I've had absolutely no cravings and no nicotine in any way for almost 10 years now. I cannot explain it, but it worked immediately in a way that nothing had worked up to that point, and wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody who is serious about quitting. Worth pointing out, it's not a magic bullet, and it doesn't work for everybody. To paraphrase a reply, it seems most effective on people who have a firm commitment to quitting but just haven't been able to make it stick for whatever reason. If you've tried everything but nothing's worked, and you really truly don't want to be a smoker anymore, it's worth a shot. I just turned off notifications for this post because I really need to go to work, and I'm getting like 10 replies a minute. I'm glad so many people have experienced success with this book and that so many others are interested in it. If you have questions, just read it. Vaping, then a nicotine-free vape. Smoked Reds for 10 years. Quit in November 2020 after a month of vaping. I convinced myself that it was gross. Do you have an old soda can of Butts on your porch? Think about drinking it. Have you ever smelled someone who just smokes and drinks black coffee? They smell like literal poop. Think about that. It makes you smell poopy. Gross yourself out. My grandfather smoked heavily for most of his life and suffered from dementia in his later years. My grandmother decided to help him stop smoking. One morning, he went outside to his usual spot, and his ashtray and cigarettes weren't there. He asked my grandmother, "Where are my smokes?" She replied, "Smokes? What are you talking about? You've never smoked a day in your life." He bought it. Gotta be cruel to be kind, I guess. COVID. 10+ years, smoking 1 to 2 packs a week. Got sick with COVID. Couldn't smoke for 2 weeks. Got my taste and smell back. Now they disgust me. I take zero credit here. I got sick with COVID, but not sick. I was vaccinated. Felt crappy for sure, but was not hospitalized. COVID changed my taste buds or something. That's why I take no credit. I got the flu, and my body decided it hated them. I disagree. You did it. You could easily have had a few beers, had a smoke, and got back on the wagon. Take every day at a time. But I agree, my taste buds were much improved. I met a girl who did not smoke. I decided that if I wanted to be together with her, I needed to quit. I still have cravings every so often, and I do occasionally have a cigarette at a party, but never more than once every couple of years, and the moment I have it, I regret it, as it no longer tastes good or feels good, just makes my mouth taste like an ashtray and makes me queasy. I'm very glad for that fact, if I'm honest, resets that craving for another couple of years. I met a girl who hated cigarettes, so I asked her out and quit. She wasn't right, so I met another girl. She loved cigarettes more than any other person I've ever met to this day, so I started again. She wasn't right, so I stopped trying to quit. Met my wife. She sort of smoked, like she was hooked, but she hated it. She quit when she got pregnant with our kid. I tried to quit. I failed. Finally gave it up for good when kid was about 2 or so. I can't really explain it. I was just ready. For me, it was taking one tiny step after another. Just go till lunchtime. Okay, now go till tea time. Great job. See if you can do a whole day. Fantastic. How about 2 days? Brilliant. Now bet you can't manage a week. And so on. That was 23 years ago. It was hell, but oh so worth it. I had a mantra that helped me in darker moments. I'd rather be 45, wishing I could smoke, than 65, wishing I hadn't. Now I'm that 65-year-old, and I thank that former me every single day. Hey, I really like that mantra. Hope you don't mind if I snag it. Thank you for the inspiration. I'm 32 and just about to hit 16 months, no alcohol. Cigarettes are on my list, eventually. 5 degrees Fahrenheit weather in February, and I was standing outside community college and feeling like a real asshole. I thought to myself, what if there was some jerk of a boss who told me I had to stand outside for 5 minutes every hour in the cold and heat and rain, throw away a quarter, and get stinky? I'd tell him to kiss my ass. Well, that was my mentality. I got angry. I didn't quit cold turkey, but I allowed myself 5 a day, then 4, then 3, then I stopped smoking in my car. I'd look at that jerk I was holding between my fingers and get mad at this imaginary boss. Sometimes I wouldn't even finish it. I'd get my extra minty gum and head back inside. It took months, but I set an end date, and the day I graduated was the last time I had a cigarette. May 14th, 2003. Got pregnant. Have not touched it since. But God, I miss it. I had to scroll so far for this. Quit the day I found out. Husband quit the day she was born. It's been 7 years. But yeah, there are feelings out. The answer I was looking for. I was like, where's the I got pregnant crew? I don't miss it. Haven't touched it since. Now, I hate the smell. Plus, a kidney cancer diagnosis despite being smoke-free 12 years now. I'm good. My kid deserves a healthy mom. Me too. For me, it was 9 years ago, and I still crave it when I see it in a movie or something like that. Maybe because I had to quit so suddenly, I don't know, but I never wanted to be a smoking mum, so I guess that made it easy for me. I was honest with myself that it was just a habit that I didn't really enjoy. If I had nostalgia for a ciggy and had one, after smoking about half, I felt a bit sick. It was my morning coffee and ciggy routine, so I just switched to coffee, Wordle, and it's all good now. I had always told myself that as long as I was enjoying my lifestyle, I would keep doing it. But then I thought really hard about what I expected the experience of smoking a cigarette to be like. You know, the whole mental image of this soothing smoke, followed by a flushing feeling of all the stress melting away. And then I lit up and realized that whole thing was a lie, that no cigarette was ever as good as I imagined it would be. The disappointment at that epiphany led me to realize I didn't enjoy smoking. And while I repeated the experiment a few times, it just made me feel sick. So I quit for good. Similar to the mouse person, I guess. But every time I think about smoking, like, I really need to smoke, I replace smoke or cigarette with poison. So I'll say, I miss having poison, or I need poison, all in my head. Once you get past withdrawal, which lasts about a week, Juul was invented. I had tried so many times to quit, even other vapes. For whatever reason, Juul did the trick. I switched from cigs to Juul, and then from Juul to lozenges, and then tapered off the lozenges until I was totally nicotine-free. I honestly never thought I could do it. Vaping worked for me too. Switched from cigs to a vape that I could refill with whatever I wanted in 2021, and worked my way from 50 milligram nicotine down to 3 milligram over the course of a few years. Finally kicked it all together December of last year, so I've been nicotine-free for about 2 months, which is the longest I've ever done since I started smoking like 20 years ago. I haven't really had cravings either, so I think I'm finally done. Cheesy, but I read Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. Worked for me too. I had given up a few times before, and I always felt like I was depriving myself, even after a year. After reading that, a page or two a day, it's like I just don't see them anymore, like I've erased them from my memory. Quit more than 15 years ago. You are never an ex-smoker, just a smoker who chooses not to smoke. I don't know. It has been almost 20 years, and I haven't had cravings in a very long time. Smelling smoke grosses me out now. I'm not even remotely tempted to smoke. Please talk about yourself. There's no need to speculate about others. Smoked for about 10 years, have been a non-smoker for last 25, definitely a non-smoker for at least 20 years.